If you've ever wondered what happens when a nuclear warhead disguised as a Kawasaki ZX-10R rolls into a peaceful college town market full of iced lattes, avocado toast, and future neuroscientists in yoga pants, well, buckle up. Because this story, it's not just wild. It's turbocharged with a 1,000 cubic centimeters engine, some accidental flirtation, and more high-pitched screaming than a horror movie marathon. It all started on a sunny Saturday, the kind of day where the world feels like it's bathed in golden Instagram filters. The local market was in full swing, organic strawberries being overcharged, people pretending to know what kombucha really is, and college girls laughing way too hard at jokes that weren't funny. Then came the growl. Not a dog, not a lion. A mechanical growl, raw, vicious, and echoing off the fruit stalls like thunder in a teacup. Heads turned. A flock of pigeons exploded into the air like a scene from a Tarantino movie. And then it appeared, sleek, menacing, black and green, the beast. ZX10R. With a rider dressed like Batman's cooler, louder cousin. He wasn't showing off. Well, okay, maybe a little, but the moment he lightly cracked that throttle, the exhaust snarled like a dragon with bronchitis. That's when it happened. 3 college girls, mid-sip of their overpriced iced matcha, spun around like they'd just seen Elvis return. One dropped her cup. The second clutched her friend like they were on a roller coaster. The third, well, she froze eyes wide like she'd just seen her GPA fall in real time. The ZX-10R wasn't just a bike anymore. It was the moment. People scattered. Vendors ducked. Someone yelled, "Is that thing even legal?" The rider, unaware of the chaos in his wake, or maybe too aware, slowly cruised through the narrow lane. With every subtle blip of the throttle, a fresh wave of reactions followed. A guy pretending to not be impressed while secretly Googling, used ZX10R price USA. An old uncle swearing in 3 different languages, and a baby who legit tried to clap in rhythm with the exhaust notes. But the true stars were the college girls, because once the bike passed, they didn't just go back to their iced drinks. Oh no, one of them followed it. Not subtly either. She marched after the sound like it owed her money. And that's how we met Mia. Mia, a sophomore in psychology, had just posted an Instagram reel titled, "Healing Era Begins Dizzy Sparkles Herb," but apparently, her new spiritual path didn't include suppressing curiosity about angry-sounding motorcycles. She caught up to the rider at the end of the market, tapped him on the shoulder with a dramatic, "Excuse me." The rider turned. Helmet off. Boom. Plot twist. He wasn't a bro. He was actually, brace for it, a music student. Yup. Guy with a bike that sounded like the end of days. Played the violin. Mia blinked. "You play what?" "Violin," he said, voice deep but polite. "But mostly I just ride." Mia, still trying to process how Beethoven's biggest fan just rattled her eardrums, took a long breath. "You scared half the market." Mrs. Thompson dropped her kale. He smirked. "But you followed." She paused, slightly flustered. "That's beside the point. Your bike sounds like a jet with anger issues." "And yet," he replied, revving it just enough to make a distant vendor drop a tray of apples, "you're still standing here." Meanwhile, her friends stood at a safe distance, filming everything for TikTok, whispering excitedly like, "Girl, this is your Wattpad story unfolding live." Just then a security guard arrived. Probably named Bob. Definitely out of breath. "You can't rev that thing here," Bob declared, pointing dramatically, like the bike had personally insulted his Prius. The rider respectfully nodded. "Absolutely, officer. Just heading out." But then, because fate is nothing if not extra, Mia said, "Wait, can I sit on it?" The entire market gasped. Okay, maybe just one guy gasped. But still. "Sure," the rider replied coolly. She climbed on, jeans, crop top, mild panic. "Don't start it though, okay?" He started it. The moment the engine roared to life, Mia let out a scream so pure it could have summoned eagles. Her friends were crying laughing. A little kid yelled, "She's gonna ride OFF." And someone yelled back, "Call her MOM." But she didn't jump off. She smiled. And that's when she did the unthinkable. She grinned, leaned forward, and asked, "How do I make it louder?" The rider tilted his head, unsure if she was serious or if this was one of those moments where sarcasm hid behind every syllable. But Mia, she was dead serious. The kind of serious that only kicks in when adrenaline overrules logic. Her friends were practically convulsing in the background, screaming and laughing all at once, and the security guard, Bob, looked like he was reconsidering every career choice he had ever made. "You sure?" the rider asked, one eyebrow raised beneath his visor. Mia nodded, her ponytail bobbing like a flag of rebellion. So he leaned closer and said, "Twist this gently." She didn't twist it gently. She twisted it like it was the volume knob of life itself, and she was tired of living on mute. The ZX-10R screamed. It roared. The exhaust cracked so loud that a vendor accidentally flung a bag of kettle corn into the air like fireworks. People ducked. A man in a Hawaiian shirt dropped his churro and yelled something about the youth being out of control. Someone nearby said a prayer. But Mia laughed. A deep, rich, chaotic laugh that made it clear this wasn't fear anymore. This was her moment. For the first time in her 2 years of midterms, group projects, and existential dread about student loans, she felt alive. The rider, clearly impressed, reached over and turned the key to kill the engine before someone called the National Guard. The silence that followed was almost louder than the bike itself. It was the kind of silence that hangs in the air after something legendary just happened. People stared, some with judgment, some with admiration, and one guy definitely with romantic confusion. Mia swung her leg off the bike like a seasoned rider, even though it was more of a stumble disguised as grace, and handed the helmet back like a trophy. "Well," she said, brushing invisible dust off her jeans, "that was kind of amazing." The rider gave her a half-smile. "You've got guts. Most people scream and run." She shrugged. "I scream and rev." They both laughed, and for a fleeting second, it felt like they were the only two people in the world. Which was impressive, considering there were still bystanders picking apples out of their grocery bags and whispering like a scene out of Mean Girls. Then came a voice from across the market. "Hey, you dented my tomato stand." The rider winced slightly. "Time to go." "Agreed," Mia nodded. Before he could mount the bike again, one of Mia's friends, Amber, the one with an iPhone always 2 seconds from live streaming everything, rushed up. "Okay, who is this and why do you look like you're about to ride off into a Netflix series?" Mia smirked. "Just a violinist with a monster machine." Amber turned to the rider. "Wait, are you like TikTok famous or something?" He laughed. "Not yet," as the girls began peppering him with questions. "What's your Instagram? How fast does it go? Can we get a boomerang of it backfiring?" Bob the security guard returned, this time with reinforcements, a second guard and a clipboard. Very serious stuff. "All right," Bob said sternly. "We're going to need you to move this thing out of the pedestrian zone. Now." The rider nodded respectfully. "Understood, officer. I'll head out." Bob looked skeptical. "And no revving this time." The rider looked at Mia. She looked back. Both of them tried not to laugh. He mounted the bike, clipped the helmet back on, and before he started it, he looked over his shoulder. "Mia, right?" She nodded. "Yep. Want to ride sometime?" Mia blinked. "Are you asking me, or are you asking if I want to ride that thing again?" "Both." Mia opened her mouth to answer, but Amber yelled, "Say yes or I'll do it for you." She rolled her eyes and grinned. "Maybe. Depends if you promise to bring earplugs." He chuckled, gave her a mock salute, and started the engine, softly this time, like the sound of a growl trapped in a velvet bag. He began to roll away, the crowd parting like a sea of gossipy students and stunned tourists. As he turned the corner and disappeared from view, a small pause settled over the scene. Then Mia turned to her friends and said, "Okay, someone please tell me we got that on video." Amber held up her phone triumphantly. "Full HD, baby. This is going viral." Just then, an old woman from a craft stall walked by and muttered, "Back in my day, boys brought flowers, not explosions." Mia smirked. "Back in your day, Grandma didn't have 200 horsepower." And just like that, the girls broke into uncontrollable laughter again. But then, far off in the distance, so faint it could have been imagined, a single sharp crack echoed through the air. He'd revved it. Once. Just once. And every head in the market turned instinctively, as if drawn to the call of the wild. Mia shook her head with a smile, already pulling out her phone. Because this story, it wasn't over. Not even close. The market slowly returned to its rhythm, but something had changed. People talked differently, walked a little lighter, smiled more often. Like they'd just witnessed something rare, part chaos, part comedy, part cinematic legend. And Mia? She wasn't just another college girl sipping matcha anymore. She had become the girl who rode the dragon. By that evening, the video Amber posted had already racked up thousands of views. The comment section was a wild ride of its own. Who needs coffee when you've got this exhaust face with tears of joy? Is this a romance or a Fast and Furious spin-off? Petition to make this a series. Mia and the Rev Rider. Wait, did she say he plays the violin? Bro went from metal to Mozart real quick. People couldn't get enough. Memes exploded. Someone remixed the bike rev into a techno beat. A popular influencer duetted the video pretending to be one of the apples that flew off the cart. And suddenly, Mia was more than just tagged. She was known. But beyond the clicks and clout, something deeper had been stirred. Mia sat that night in her dorm room, replaying the moment in her head. The throttle, the scream, the thrill, the laughter. Not because she wanted to relive the noise, but because it reminded her of something she hadn't felt in a long time. Freedom. Not the fake kind where you skip class or cancel plans. The real kind. The kind that makes your heart pound, makes you say yes before your brain can catch up, makes you feel. Somewhere between the fear and the fun, she had found a version of herself that didn't worry so much. A girl who could laugh louder than the engine and still walk away smiling. Her phone buzzed. Unknown number. Tuning the bike tomorrow. Want to test the new Echo? She stared at the message, half smiling, half shaking her head. And then she typed back, only if you let me throttle this time, with proper instructions. The reply came quick. Deal. Helmet's yours. She laughed, alone in her room, the same way she had laughed in the middle of that market. Pure. Unfiltered. Out there, the world was loud. Unpredictable. Sometimes messy. But maybe that's what made it beautiful. The ZX10R had torn through the calm like a storm, but in doing so, it cracked open a window to something unforgettable. A moment where strangers became stories, where rules bent for wonder, and where one brave girl took the handlebars of chaos and made it her own. Some said it was just a loud bike. Some said it was reckless. But those who were there, those who heard it, those who felt it in their bones, they knew better. It wasn't just horsepower. It was life wide open, roaring at full throttle. And somewhere in the city, as streetlights blinked into the night, a certain violinist zipped through traffic with a grin under his visor, wondering just how far one good rev could carry a story. Because in a world full of silence, sometimes it takes a little noise to make everything finally come alive.